Hello students, in this class we are going to describe some basics of consumer behavior. These are some simple theories but parts of daily life that we have never given attention to. Okay, so consumer behavior essentially deals with the behavior of consumers. Why they want to consume a particular commodity? When do they stop to decide consumption of that particular commodity? Or why they increase consumption of a commodity when its price falls? These are very simple questions which you can intuitively answer. But economic theory does not want intuitive answers but want theoretical answers and practical as well. And so consumer behavior essentially deals with answers to these questions. Why people consume certain commodities? Why people are ready to pay a higher price to these commodities? When do people decide to stop consumption of a particular commodity, or why they increase consumption of a commodity when its price falls? These questions are answered in consumer behavior, and for this we have different tools. And the first tool that are used is Cardinal Utility analysis. And here utility is a new concept. Utility is the satisfaction that a commodity offers to the consumer or to the person who consumes it. Why do you consume a commodity? You consume a commodity because it satisfies your want. Okay, you buy a bottle of water because you are thirsty and you want to satisfy your thirst. You buy food from a hotel because you are feeling hungry and you want to satisfy your feeling of hunger. So the utility of commodity or services, for example, you are buying haircut from a salon because you want to satisfy your want to look better. And so all these commodities or services are satisfying certain wants. So commodities are ultimately designed to satisfy the wants of people. Okay, this property of commodity or service is known as utility. So utility simply is the want satisfying power of a commodity or service. That is, it satisfies certain want of a person. This property is known as utility in economics. The utility can be means economics is almost a quantitative subject, and therefore when you are dealing with certain concepts you want to measure those concepts also, and therefore economists began to or tried to measure this concept of utility, and it was Alfred Marshall who firstly introduced utility as a measurable unit, and anything that can be measured is known as cardinal. And according to Alfred Marshall, utility can also be measured in quantitative numbers, and therefore the utility that Alfred Marshall referred to is known as cardinal utility. Okay, cardinal utility. So utility is the want satisfying power of a commodity. Because utility can be measured in quantitative numbers, it is known as cardinal utility, and it was Alfred Marshall of the neoclassical school who firstly measured utility in cardinal numbers, and therefore his analysis is known as cardinal utility analysis. So cardinal utility analysis entails measurement of utility in cardinal numbers. For example, if you consume a bottle of water, you must be able to explicitly express the number of utility that you got from consuming that bottle of water. According to Marshall, this measurement of utility can be done in units called utils, utils, and these are the units by which we measure utility derived from a particular commodity. So when you are consuming a bottle of water, you must be able to say that I got such and such units of utils from this bottle of water. For example, you may say that I got 10 utils from consuming this bottle of water, or you got 20 utils from consuming this bottle of water. And Alfred Marshall almost equated money as an equivalent to utils in measuring utility, and therefore his analysis of utility is known as cardinal utility analysis. And this cardinal utility analysis is based on certain important assumptions. We know the role of assumptions. Assumptions makes complicated things simple. We know that economics is a very complicated subject where we are dealing with a lot of variables that needs equal attention. But when we are modeling certain behavior of economic variables, we cannot include all the variables in it, because as the number of variables in a model increases, the accuracy of that model goes down. And therefore, in order to keep certain things constant, in order to make our model flexible or simple, we are making certain assumptions, and in that cardinal utility analysis also made certain assumptions. So one is that utility can be cardinally measured, cardinal measurability, cardinally measured. This means that you should be able to express the number of units of satisfaction that you receive from consuming a commodity. This is the cardinal measurability of utility. Just as we previously discussed, when you are consuming a certain commodity, you must be able to express the number of utils or number of utility, the amount of utility you derive by consuming that commodity. So cardinal measurability is at the basis of cardinal utility analysis. Okay, this may look very strange, but actually the cardinal utility analysis says that at the back of your mind you are always making calculations and comparing the number of utilities you received by different commodities, and that is how you decide to purchase or not to purchase a commodity. So cardinal measurability is at the basic of cardinal utility analysis. Second one is the constant marginal utility of money. Constant marginal utility of money. Here we have a new concept, marginal utility. Marginal utility. The concept margin means that the last unit. So marginal utility is the utility you derive by consuming the last unit of a commodity. Okay, suppose you are consuming 5 chocolates in a row. 5 chocolates in a row. So marginal utility from consuming the chocolate would be the utility you derive by consuming the last unit of that chocolate, that is the 5th unit. So you may be getting different utilities from each unit of this chocolate, but you will be getting certain utils from consuming that 5th chocolate, and that utility is known as marginal utility. So here Marshall says that, or cardinal utility analyst says that money has also got utility. Money has also got utility because you receive certain degree of satisfaction from having a certain amount of money, and therefore money has utility, and this utility of money remains constant. This is an important assumption because money is considered as the measuring rod of utility or utils in cardinal utility analysis. Unless the utility of money remains constant, the measurability of utility from commodities will be complicated, because the most important property of a measuring rod is the constancy of its value. Its value should remain constant and not be fluctuating. And therefore, the cardinal utility analysts assume that the utility of money is constant. Third important assumption is independent utilities. Independent utilities means that you may be consuming commodities in groups. You may be consuming a bottle of water together with your lunch, but you will be getting different utilities from 2 commodities. But the utility you derive by consuming one commodity, that is a bottle of water, is independent of the utility you derive by consuming your lunch. And so this is the axiom of independent utility. So independent utilities means that utility derived from consuming a particular commodity is independent from the utility you derive by consuming another commodity. Okay, and this is another important assumption of cardinal utility analysis. And fourth important assumption is the additivity. That means additivity means utility can be added. Utility you derive from consuming first unit can be added to the second unit, third unit, fourth unit, fifth unit, and so on and so on. So additivity implies the ability of a person to add utilities derived by consuming the same unit, the different units of the same commodity, or different units of different commodities. So utilities are additive. And the fifth and most important property, and maybe one of the most important properties, is the diminishing marginal utility of money. Sorry, diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing utility. Marginal. This assumption says that This assumption says that as you consume more and more units of a particular commodity, the utility you derive from the consumption of the last unit goes on diminishing. That means you may be consuming 5 pieces of chocolate, 5 bars of chocolate. The first bar of chocolate may give you 20 utils, the second may give you 16 utils, the third may give you 12 utils, the fourth may give you 8, and the fifth may give you 4 units. So the first unit is marginal utility. The first unit will give you maybe 20 units, the second unit will give you 16, third unit will give you 12, fourth unit will give you 8, and the fifth unit may give you only 4 units of satisfaction. This is from inductive and introspective methods. You can see that this assumption is quite true, because when we are consuming more and more of a commodity, our desire or intensity of our desire for that particular commodity goes down. If you are consuming 5 chocolates in a row, by the time you are consuming the fifth one, your desire or intensity of your desire for that chocolate will have fallen very low, and that is what is implied by the diminishing marginal utility. So the diminishing marginal utility says that the utility derived by consuming the last unit of a commodity goes down as we consume more and more units of that commodity. So these are the 5 basic assumptions of cardinal utility analysis. So cardinal utility analysis was brought forward by Alfred Marshall, and it implies the measurability of utility. Utility is the one satisfying power of a commodity, and cardinal utility analysis based on these 5 important assumptions. First one, cardinal measurability of utility, constant marginal utility of money, independent utilities, additivity of utility derived from different commodities of the same commodity, and finally diminishing marginal utility. Okay, these are the important assumptions of marginal utility analysis, and